So we'll be going on to the presentation just to tell you a little bit about the work that has gone on before we got here. So we didn't just decide to create a network, but the idea for the network had come from at least 4 pre-events before we are getting here today. So can I call on our professors who have helped to organize some of the pre-launch event at the at Babcock University, University of Ibadan, and University of Lagos? Please, can you join us?
Hello everyone, my name is Grace Oluwatoyin-Tayo. I work as Director of Research at Babcock University. It's one of the leading private universities in Nigeria. And I'm also a professor of animal nutrition in the same institution. I've been working with Josephine for about 2 years now. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Adejoke Oyewunmi. I'm a professor of law at the University of Lagos, and I was invited by Dr. Adekola and Professor Tayo to join the network last year, along with my team from the University of Lagos. It's a great honor and privilege to be here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Titilayo Fakeye. I'm a professor of pharmacy practice at the first university in Nigeria, University of Ibadan. So I was invited to join the network by Dr. Adekola and Professor Tayo. It's been a pleasure being here, and I hope that by the time we leave, we'll have something concrete to take back home. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to just talk a little bit about why we focus on the female academics in Africa. So a very long time I've been thinking about how my work would impact on the community, Africa, or the community I came from, my country. And I know I had a conversation with Professor Cindy Gray at some point of wanting to go to Africa to make an impact. So I began to do my research to understand which areas I would like to contribute to. And at that point, I was lucky to have my husband who was working on gender in Africa. And he said, hey, there's a lot of problems here. Do you want to look at it? And that's how I began to look into gender disparity in Africa. And when I began to do my research, I now saw the challenge was immense. The underrepresentation of women in African academia was of stark reality. Now, in sub-Saharan Africa, we saw that women constitute only 24% of the academic staff. And the vice chancellor, we have just 2.5% of female vice chancellor in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. I don't know if anybody knows the number of countries in sub-Saharan Africa, but it's not just one country. The statistics also show that out of all the professors in Ghana, only 8% of them were women. And I was wondering, where are all our women? You know, women go to school well educated, but in terms of the academic pipeline, we can see that they are not really progressing as they should. In South Africa, less than 3 of every 100 universities are led by women vice chancellors. So what it means is that 97% of vice chancellors in South Africa are led by men, which suggests a serious gap in academia and in research. Now, looking specifically at research, we found out that according to the African Education Research Database, it shows that out of the 2,510 publications that were surveyed, only 32% were led by women. So in publication, we are seeing a stark gender disparity, which suggests that at least 68% of all publications are led by men. And what we are seeing here is even the science that are informing policy and decisions, the women perspective, women voices are not really trickling through in terms of the research leadership. Now, the lack of representation in research leadership can lead to narrow perspective on critical issues affecting women, undermining valuable insight into. The focus here is on research leadership. So we didn't look at the team itself, but who is leading the research. And we saw that most of the men are the one leading on the research. Okay. Now, when we looked at the enrollment into universities, we saw that at the undergraduate level, the disparity isn't very much. There seems to be some balance there. But the question then becomes, why is it then that there's so much disparity when we come to the academic level? And then at the professorial level, that's a different story entirely. Also, we need to recognize that this problem is not just an African problem. We also have gender disparities across different areas, even in the UK as well. And we saw that in terms of the professors, we have 24,000 professors in the UK just now, and only 90% of them are Black women, for instance. And that represents less than 1% of the entire population of the 24,000 professors in the UK. It reveals significant racial and gender disparity, emphasizing the need for more targeted policy to support Black women in academia. Now, I don't want to go into more details of the data, but let's just compare and see. So if you see in sub-Saharan Africa, 24% of academic staff are women. In the UK, when we compare, it's about 45%. So we can see that there's a gap there. Even UK is not perfect, but at least they are close to a balance compared to Africa. In terms of vice chancellor, 2.5% are vice chancellor. And in Nigeria specifically, the figure is much better compared to other African countries at 8.72%. In the UK, we have about 70%. So we can see that this gender disparity in academia, in research, is not just an African problem, it's a global problem. And that's why we are taking that international lens as well, so that we can together collaborate to deal with some of this gender disparity. Like what I said at the conference in Babcock last year, is that there's really no big blue button for us to press to resolve this challenge. We have to pedal our way through, like a bicycle ride, climbing on the mountain. We have to take the pain step by step, me and you, to try to change some of this gender disparity. And it's activities like this and your publications and the things you're doing on your day-to-day job that is going to make the difference. Nobody's coming to help us. We have to help ourselves. And we all need to be involved in that whole process of doing that. Like I did say again, in Ghana, 8% of public university professors are women. It means 92% are men. So out of every 10 professors, only one, less than one. Is there less than one human being? Okay, let's say one of them just women. And in the UK, it's about 20%, So again, there's gender disparity in both ways, but we can see the stark difference in Africa. And that is the reason why we are focusing on female academic network. I know some of you might ask, why not academic network? We have seen a specific gender gap, and that's why we're trying to plug into that to try to address the problem and taking, we don't just want to sit down and talk about this problem. We want to be involved in the process of creating that solution, even if it means just taking a step at a time, no matter the little contribution we can make. So, so we did get some funding from the International Partnership Development Fund to bring women together last year, which we were hosted by Babcock University Professor Tayo Grace. We brought together about 54 participants from 11 institutions. It was a 2-day conference where we were just all women talking about women's stuff. It was so good because the women wanted more time, but we were out of funds. And we're hoping that in the future, we might be able to get more funds to do more things across the country and across the continent. And it was, women conversation. Now, there were 3 main challenges that were raised at that conference. One of them, and we kind of, did a thematic analysis. We identified 3 levels of barriers and challenges that women face that created that kind of problem that we're seeing. One of them was individual factors and how they contribute to the problem of gender disparity in academia and research. And one of them is around, I'm not going to bog you down with the details of the research, but I think I've sent the video already in the invite, which is more enjoyable to watch than me, talking at you. But some of the key issues are around self-doubt and imposter syndrome, work-life balance challenges. A lot of women have children to take care of, lack of mentorship, limited networking opportunities, and fear of repercussion. And this one, the last one is a very big issue because sometimes you're afraid to dream big because you're afraid that your vision could actually become an avenue where people begin to attack you So women are afraid to dream big, and I also suffer it myself. So it's not an African problem. It's all, I think we all have those kind of challenges that you're wondering, what should I do next? And, could this actually attract more problems for me? And you decide that maybe not now. Maybe let me just focus on my child, upbringing for now. So fear of repercussion was a big concern. Now, at the organizational level, we have issues raised around institutional policy, workplace culture, promotion and recruitment practices, limited leadership development opportunities, and lack of gender representation. And there was a simple example that was given, a lady who went on maternity leave, but then her maternity leave was taken as if it was her annual leave. So because she was on maternity leave, she didn't have opportunity to go on annual leave. And she was wondering why that was the case, because she went on maternity leave not because she wanted to go and rest. Maternity is hard work. If you had a baby, you know that maternity leave is not actually leave. You're taking leave to go and work, do the real work at home. So just minor issues like that, being not institutional policy, not taken into consideration, those little issues that affect women specifically, and that can have a significant impact on productivity, on research leadership, and ultimately the gender gap we are seeing. Now, at the societal level, there are issues around cultural norms and expectation. For instance, you should focus on your husband, you should focus on your children, leave academia alone, and people not knowing what priorities should be. Should I focus on my career? Should I focus, you're being pushed and tossed aside. And if you're a married woman, you have a lot of things to deal with as well. Gender-based discrimination, some families would rather the men do these things than the women do it. Educational inequities, family responsibility, and violence and harassment. A lot of women did raise issues of harassment in the place of their work, in labs and things like that. So a lot of issues were raised. There were even issues raised around publications, not having access to global network, or some comments, especially when you submit a paper to a journal, having a racial undertone. And people feel that they are not being treated fairly in the review process as well. So a number of issues were raised. When you watch the film, it would give you some more context to the conversation. So these are some of the challenges. And from that event, we decided that, or we all agreed that we should keep the conversation going. That some of the women, were wondering why they never had this kind of experience all their career. And they wanted to have more of this kind of conversation. They wanted to have more time, more days, or we women talking about women things and looking for solutions that will help us to forge our career. So we agreed in that meeting to create a new network of female academics that will help us, or that will act as a platform to keep that conversation going. Now, while we had our agreement, we couldn't just go and create a network without speaking to the people. So we were very proud to get some funding from the Early and Mid-Career Mobility Funds and also the Esteem Fund to carry out some pre-launch activities, 3 of them, which was carried out at the Babcock University, Ibadan, Lagos, and Babcock. So we'll invite Professor Fakeye to come and tell us a little bit about the pre-launch event that took place at University of Ibadan. And the first conversation that we had was around what kind of network do people want. So we agreed to create a network. So what kind of network do people want? What would a successful network look like? And she will tell us a little bit about that. And then we went to University of Lagos to talk about, what are the resources and the barriers to this network that we have discussed about, and how can we assess the resources? What are the barriers and how can we overcome it? We'll have Professor Oyewunmi tell us about that. And finally, in Babcock, we had a conversation around what should the mission, the vision, the aim, the structure of the network look like. So the Professor Tayo will tell us about that. And then I will come back to tell us about what, based on the conversation that we've had, what the mission and the vision of this new network is about. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So the pre-launch event in University of Ibadan actually took place on the July 10th. It was a one-day program, and early and mid-career women in academia were encouraged to join. We had about 30 people. We had 3 sessions in which we asked women to talk about various things: overcoming challenges in academia, mentorship in career development, and work-life balance. And we had breakout sessions, and the first question was, what would a successful FAN look like? So it was agreed that it should be a registered network with structured mentorship, and it should promote cross-border collaboration and shared learning. The second breakout session looked at research focus and membership, and it was also agreed that the membership should involve all female academics and postgraduate students so that we start early and catch them young. And the focus should be on gender sensitive and translational research, and mentorship should be one of the strong factors of the network. So concerns were raised and we discussed on gender discrimination and subtle institutional bias, managing pressure to accept unwanted roles. I mean, she said it, women have a lot to do, and then more will be added to you. Then balancing financial stability with academic passion actually is a problem we're having currently. A lot of women wouldn't mind coming into academia, but the salary is bad. And so they say, sorry, I will earn much more than that if I were practicing pharmacy outside. But there was a testimony, if I may use that word, about a lady. She had had 2 masters. She has a PhD, but came back for another master's in pharmacognosy. And she said at that point she was contemplating leaving academia, but the workshop has rekindled her purpose. It was quite nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Oyewunmi. So Professor Oyewunmi will tell us about some of the barriers, challenges, and resources that the network need.
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that the University of Lagos is unique because it's about 62 years old now, and for the first time, we have a female vice chancellor. Also, the deputy vice chancellor in charge of academics and research is a woman. And so when we had our pre-launch session, we thought it appropriate to invite these 2 leaders as examples to come and inspire us and share their experiences. And so we had the first speaker being the Vice Chancellor who shared her experience, particularly the importance of confidence building. She also happened to be the first female provost of the College of Medicine, and talked to us about how challenging it could be for women, particularly when you are vying for an elective position. Most of the time, you are just appointed to do something, you give it your best shot, everybody sees that you're good, but the level of confidence required of a woman to contest, to campaign, carry out campaigns for elective positions, that really is a big challenge. And so she talked to us about confidence building, experience sharing, and mutual support. And then we had the presentation by the Deputy Vice Chancellor, who talked about the importance of female academic networks, to promote research excellence. And in particular, she focused on the importance of collaboration, mentorship, networking, and sponsorship, that this platform would create an opportunity to access information and to share experiences with other women. And then we had the multidisciplinary panel session, and finally the breakout groups. Now, the focus of our pre-launch was to look at the prospects. What are the opportunities? I just highlighted some of them from our earlier presentation by the Vice Chancellor and the Deputy Vice Chancellor. Collaboration, mentorship, sponsorship, and all that. But then there are significant challenges that we also have to deal with. And one of the major challenges has to do with funding. But beyond funding, there's also the challenge of multidisciplinary coordination, because the idea is that this research network should not be limited or restricted to a particular discipline. We want to learn skills, we want to build confidence, and we want to engage in research, particularly evidence-based research. These are things that tend to require some sort of nuanced application depending on the discipline that you find yourself. And so we averted our minds to that particular challenge, particularly because it may complicate the alignment of goals and activities. And then we also talked about, and Professor Tayo has alluded to that, the challenge of the busy female academic who has to deal with so many different challenges. Already, one of the major issues that females in academia have to contend with is that some just focus on their teaching. They don't really have adequate maybe time and sometimes resources to engage in the kind of research that they need to, due to imbalances in work-family structure and all that. So that's a challenge. Now, how do we address this? And that's where this network will be critical, because this time you will be interacting with each other, and we'll have those who have successfully walked through this terrain, mentoring the younger ones, the younger colleagues. And then we looked at the strategies that could be used, strategies that could be deployed to address some of these challenges. And so we thought it imperative to create a central coordination committee, and also have a kind of framework, documents, constitution, whatever we choose to call it, to define governance structures, to have a functional website, LinkedIn page for information sharing, so that we'll have increased visibility and engagement. That in itself is also likely to be one of the important factors that funders will look at when they decide whether to support the network. And then program delivery and sustainability. We talked about the imperative of engaging technology, just as we're doing now. 3 of us came from 3 universities in Nigeria. When we had our pre-launch, we had 41 participants, excluding our Vice Chancellor and the Deputy Vice Chancellor. I'm the only one who is able to be here physically, but we have a number of our colleagues who are here online. So how do we leverage digital technology for electronic workshops and capacity building events as necessary? And then the development of a structured mentorship program where we pair mentors and mentees from the same or at least similar discipline. And then finally, the creation of disciplinary clusters or silos to allow focused collaboration, even as we continue to maintain an interdisciplinary outlook. Finally, we talked about funding. And we said, while it's important to look outwards for funding, but charity, Africans like to say that charity begins at home. And so we could also explore the possibility of membership dues, where all members contribute something, since at the end of the day, we're going to be getting value from this network. How far that would go is a different question, but at least we start from there. And then also look to institutions for support, and also donor support finally. So a 3-pronged approach: membership dues, institutional support or funding, and then the external donors. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor.
Well, we had the first meeting of the Females in Academics network at Babcock University. And so when it was time for the pre-launch event, the female academics there were very excited to join. You can see the pictures. We had the pre-launch event on September 18, 2025, and we had keynote presentations and networking. We had academics from the different levels. We had early career, mid-career, and professors, seasoned professors. We shared presentations on navigating research as a female academic. And then we also broke into group sessions to map out the vision, mission, and activities of the group. We had about 40 participants in 3 different groups to come up with the vision, mission, and activities. The mission that was proposed by the group is as projected. Let me read it out. To empower, connect, and support female academics through mentorship, research, networking, collaboration, advocacy, capacity building, thereby advancing equity and excellence in higher education in Africa. And the vision, to build a network where women in academia thrive, lead, and shape the future of research and education, driving positive change and innovation. And then the goals, to build an inclusive female academic network, fostering mentorship, collaboration, advocacy, research, and leadership to achieve gender equity and sustained empowerment. One thing that came out very clearly during our discussion is that females should also support females. We should not wait and look up to others to support us. We need to create that environment where we can support one another. One of the keynote presenters said something about the queen bee syndrome, that sometimes even females, we are not willing to support ourselves because we expect people to come to us and we sit there like the queen bee expecting, support. But we should be more dynamic about it. We should be more outgoing about it to support others and to give them a leverage or platform on which they can also climb up. So that was the aim, vision, and mission that we came up with. Dr. Adekola will continue from there because we have tried to review it and we came up with something.
Yes. So if you look at, please. So if you look at her presentation, the participant wants us to do everything. Well, it is almost impossible for us to do everything. So we had a conversation to say, well, how do we frame this in such a way that we can do some work even without funding? Because funding is a problem. I've been applying for funding, but it has been no. But, so the aim of the network in which we finally came up with was to, so the Female Academic Network for African Research and International Collaboration aims to empower female scholars, so who contribute to impactful research in Africa. So you don't have to be an African to be part of the network or to benefit from the network, but as long as you're contributing to impactful research in Africa, we would like to support you, while also promoting international collaboration. So international collaboration is a key theme in the network's aim, where we'll bring together scholars from Africa and across Europe. And we're hoping that some of the activities we can do, like organizing conferences, trainings, and all that, will be able to bring people together in the same room to have conversation. In terms of the mission, the network will foster equity and research excellence in Africa through networking, advocacy, capacity development, and mentorship. You can see that mentorship was a big part of the conversation, but we had to push it back a bit because mentorship is a big project on its own. And without funding, you can't do very much. And there's so much tricks and things we need to learn as part of that. So while we are applying for funding to be able to help us to set up mentorship, we immediately can begin to do some work around networking, even if it's just on Zoom meetings, or advocacy, even if it means, like some of our professors of law writing to the president that why do we just have 2.5 female vice chancellor in Nigeria. So there are things we can do with little or no funds, and we want to immediately begin to focus on that. But the more we're able to get more funding, we'll be able to set up projects like the mentorship project. I know it's the key thing that they want, but we need to be realistic about what is possible. So the network will promote cross-border collaboration, so it's a key aspect, and we are hoping that before you go today, you exchange contact with some of our professors that have come all the way to enhance knowledge sharing and drive effective solutions for pressing global problems. And in terms of the vision, we want to create a thriving community where women in academia lead and shape the future of research and education, driving positive change, innovation across Africa. In terms of the structure, we agreed to keep it really flat. So what we intend to have is just to have a steering group. So if you want to be part of our steering group, please join us. The co-founders and myself will be part of it automatically. Then any other person who will want to join the steering group, please reach out to us, and then we'll have members. So that was what. So this is the aim, mission, and the structure of the network. And we want to thank all our funders still today, the Global Health and Environment, IRT, which I'm part of. They decided to fund our video guys who are here today to help us make sure everything is on camera. And one of the reasons why they supported this work was because most of the researchers here in Glasgow who work in Africa do a lot of health research. So they've decided to support us. And we have the Gogito, the European Research Commission, the Know-How, who have supported through the Gogito Center, University of Glasgow, Adam Smith, Lagos, Babcock, and University of Lagos that have supported us so far. Now, I know I wanted to leave next step to the last, but I know that there are people who might want to leave at some point. But the next step is for us to launch our website where we'll ask people to fill a form and upload their details so that on the webpage you'll have your profile. So if anybody wants to collaborate with you, they don't have to come to me or come to Professor Tayo. They can see your profile on the webpage, on the network's webpage, and they can reach you directly. And we are hoping that we'll have people all across Africa who over time will join the network. And if you're looking for collaboration in Kenya, Rwanda, South Africa, it should become much easier through this network.